Hi everyone, how are you guys doing? I'm doing great, thanks for asking. Yes, I got a new microphone and I also got a new camera, and I recorded 45 minutes of this video already, and then it died. And then there's no way to charge it because it's so fucking old. I had to take the battery out and put it into the fucking wall. So we had to get a new camera, one that I can actually plug into the wall that it won't die. But it looked so beautiful. It looks so beautiful. Oh my god. One more video with the shitty Logitech camera, and then we will get a better camera. But until then, this is what we're stuck with. So in order to answer the question, what drives morbid curiosity, I wanted to get into the mind of different individuals, because this is not some question that can be answered with one single, yeah, this is what drives it. This is the scientific experiment that leads to this. The answer to this question lies in each individual person. What I mean by that, I'm not trying to get super philosophical on you. It's that people seek out this content for a variety of different reasons. It differs from person to person. So in order to get to the bottom and get the answers that I wanted, I asked all of you the question, what drives morbid curiosity? And what I mean by that is, if you guys were not aware, I run a TikTok account that discusses the darkest corners of the internet, which includes some shock and gore content. And I asked them the same exact question: what drives morbid curiosity? And I got over 200 different responses on that video alone. And what I mean by alone is that I also, a couple days before that, went live on TikTok and I asked the exact same question. As a matter of fact, that was the entire point of the live, was to answer the question, what drives morbid curiosity? And I had hundreds of responses on there from hundreds of different people. So if you were one of those people, thank you so much for contributing your brain into this. But I wanted to go bigger than even that. And what I mean by that is that I visited a bunch of different shock sites, a bunch of different gore sites, and I asked the moderators and some of the owners as well what they thought about the question. A lot of them didn't get back to me, which is understandable, but there was one website where not only did some moderators respond to me, but also the owner of the site. They were extremely down to earth. They're very, very nice people. But when confronted with a question like what drives morbid curiosity, why do you think people seek content that revolves around human suffering and pain, they didn't get back to me. It's been well over 2 weeks and I have yet to receive an answer from them. Now, this is not by a fault of their own. I don't think they mean it maliciously. I don't think that they don't want to answer my question because they don't want to answer my question. I think they don't want to answer my question because they are a place that houses this kind of content, and for someone to go out and ask them why people seek out this kind of content, it comes off as a little condescending or judgmental. And if you're watching this, people that I asked, that's not what I wanted to get to the bottom of. I just genuinely wanted to know, since you guys ran the site, why do you think this? Like I said, none of them really got back to me. We messaged back and forth, and then when I brought up the question, dead silence. Again, it's no hate to them. I understand that the question can seem a little condescending, but there was one individual that actually reached out to me in order to answer the question, and that person runs one of the biggest subreddits in the world that deals with shocking and disturbing content. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I would like to thank today's sponsor. No one is sponsoring this video. I don't really take sponsors because a lot of the sponsors that reach out to me don't make any sense with what the channel is. For example, we talk about the darkest places on the internet and a makeup company wants to fucking sponsor me. I'm not making that up. I swear to God, a couple months ago, a makeup company reached out to me to do shit. Why? But in order to substitute a sponsorship, I like to go out and look for different foundations that I can help and support, that I really believe in their vision. So for today, moving forward, I'm going to ask you guys with your help, with helping me support Eco Defense Support Group. Eco Defense Support Group, I'm not going to get into too much details about what they do because, one, I don't want to bring any injustices to what they do because it's just such an amazing mission. So basically the gist is they train anti-poachers to help and deter poachers out in Africa. For example, do you remember seeing the picture of the very last albino elephant, or rhinoceros, sorry, that was being escorted around by anti-poachers? Eco Defense Support Group trains those people. I'm not saying those exact people, they could have, but they train those people. If you want to read more about them, the link to their website is in the description below. Please feel free to donate to them. Their mission is amazing. They are helping the world's ecosystem and helping stop poaching one trainee at a time. Without any more further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes of what drives Morbid Curiosity. You like the shirt? It's the screaming painting. I don't know the name, but it's a fucking hamster. I love this fucking shirt. So what we're going to do for this video is we're going to break it down 3 different ways. The first thing I'm going to talk about is why I personally think people seek out this kind of content. My personal opinion onto Morbid Curiosity. The second part of this video is going to be what you guys thought, why you guys think people seek out Morbid Curiosity. As I said, I have hundreds of different answers, but I got rid of all the duplicates. I boiled it down to the meat and potatoes of what you guys said, and I got about 20 different responses here that I'm going to read to you, and then I'm going to dig even further into them. And for the last part of the video, we're going to go through the email that was sent to me by the owner of one of the largest subreddits that deals with shock content. We're going to go through his email together, and we're going to read and break it down line by line. So for me personally, what I think drives Morbid Curiosity, without using my reference material, without looking at my screens for any more references, it's because people see it as some sort of a challenge. And when I say things like that, I'm not being demeaning in any way. And if you seek these out for challenges, there is a reason for that. There was a channel named Vsauce. There is a channel on Vsauce that covered the exact same thing I'm talking about today, Morbid Curiosity. 8 years ago, 12 million views. And if you didn't know, you should, because Vsauce is amazing. They dive into the sciences behind some of psychology's biggest things, and not just psychology. They did things on the science of disgustingness or creepiness and the thermite balls. It's cool. It's a cool channel. But anyway, he discusses a science experiment that was conducted on people leaving a movie theater after watching a disturbing film or a horror film. And a lot of those people felt stronger than they did when they walked in for the first time, because it is a sense of accomplishment. It's a sense of I did it. It's a sense of I didn't pussy out. I made it through the entire thing. Thus, it made me stronger. People chase that dopamine feeling because when we view shocking or disturbing content, it releases the fight or flight response, right? And I actually wrote it down. I can't pronounce any of these things. Watching disturbing or shocking things releases dopamine and norepinephrine into our nervous system, aka the fight or flight response. Now, you've probably heard of one of those things, which is dopamine. Dopamine is a sense or a thing in our brain that releases when we come into contact with something pleasurable. Now he's not saying that disturbing and shocking things are pleasurable. However, they do release the same chemicals as something that is pleasurable. The best way that Michael from Vsauce describes this is uncertainty is worse than unpleasant certainty. So not knowing is worse than knowing the harsh, cold, disgusting, disturbing, shocking truth. I just realized that I said I wasn't going to reference my reference material, and I referenced my reference material. So let's move on. With that being said, we're going to move on into the second part of the video, which is me reading all of your responses and going more in depth with them. So the first one that I want to talk about is a really important one, and why I think that shock content should be viewable for people, which is it reminds them of their own morality. Now, when I say that this should be available for viewing, that doesn't mean that I support it or I condone people going there and watching it, but it is important for people to know how fragile life is. It's important for people to know how quickly life can be taken from them. For example, a lot of the shock content on the internet is not just the cartel and ISIS videos, but it's also work-related accidents, car accidents, people falling to their death, suicides, stuff like that. There are a bunch of different videos out there that showcase the fragility of life and why people are seeking out these kinds of content is just to be reminded that this is how easily you can die. Human life is fragile. You are not invincible. And I think that it's a very important thing for people to know that life is short, that life is fragile. I can't really dive any deeper into that. It's a very face value answer. So with that being said, we are going to move on to the next one, which is it shows them how evil people can be. And this is a very interesting answer because it's very prominent when watching specific types of gore videos. The first thing that I think about when I see this answer shows how evil people can be, the first thing that pops into my mind is cartel and ISIS videos. For example, I did a video earlier this year talking about some of the most brutal cartel videos there are out there. Two Guys One Chainsaw showcases two men being decapitated, or one man being decapitated by a chainsaw and the other one being decapitated by a dull knife. One of the most notoriously evil and infamous videos on the internet is Funky Town Gore, which showcases a man who had his hands chopped off and his eyes removed being skinned alive, while there is Funky Town being played in the background and the men doing it to him maniacally laughing in the background and taking pleasure in the pain that they are inflicting on this human being. And to dive even deeper into that video, there is a point where they release his arms and he reaches out to his face to feel for his eyes with hands that aren't there, while they laugh maniacally again in the background. It not only showcases how evil people can be, it also showcases how cruel, brutal, and insane certain people can be as well. So for this answer, I would say this is not why people seek it out, but it is a effect into watching these kinds of videos. It's something people just don't see. And this may be true for 98% of the population. It's something that we just don't see. But for those remaining 2%, it's what these people have to live through every single day. For people that grew up in a first world country, for example, the United States or Great Britain, or even Italy, Japan, anything like that, we aren't exposed to this kind of violence. But for people that live in Ukraine right now, or for people that live in certain countries in Africa, for example, whenever they had that civil war in Africa where the rebels were cutting kids' hands off or arms off and branding them or cutting scars into them with words to try and sway a political election in a certain way. Like, that's just an everyday thing for them. And for us to experience it like that is what I'm assuming what he's trying to say. Something people just don't see. We don't see the brutality that other people have to go through because we are sitting comfortably in a first world country where this just does not happen. But for somebody to have lived through things like this, it gives us that extra third person perspective into the lives of people that have to live through this every single day. And I really like that answer, but it's something that I had to really dig into to really get what he meant by that. So moving right on to the next one is some people are just desensitized and watch gore to feel something. So this answer can actually get a little bit heavy, so I'm going to lean into the heaviness of this answer because I feel like a lot of people actually do this, and I want to really explain. There is a form of depression that is extremely rare, and it only happens when someone is way too far gone. It's that people are numb. And what I mean by numb is that they don't feel anything mentally, psychologically, or physically. Like, they can't feel the sun on their skin. They can't feel physical pain. That's why a lot of people, when they're depressed, they cut their wrists, because they want to feel something, because their bodies are numb. Their brain is rejecting any sort of stimulant to it because it is just so depressed. So for this answer, some people are desensitized and watch gore to feel something. I feel like it's that answer. Instead of cutting themselves or dealing with it in some other way, such like that, they deal with it by watching gore videos in order to try and provoke their brain into sending something so that they can finally feel something. I know that that answer is very heavy. I know that my answer to that answer is extremely heavy, but you got to understand that there are people out there that do watch this kind of content as some sort of a comfort or some sort of a stimulant so that they can finally feel something, or at least feel comfortable. So in order to answer the question why we are morbidly curious, I didn't want to leave any stone unturned, no matter how heavy the answers could be. So with that being said, let's move on right into the next one, which is some people want to feel a God complex. So this answer, I personally have never thought about it like that. But when someone brought it up to me and I thought about it, it made a lot of sense. There are a lot of people out there that watch these videos for a God complex or a superiority complex because, hey, you're dead. I'm not. I'm better than you because you're dead. I'm not. I wouldn't be in that situation. You're just stupid for being in that situation, and now you're dead. Now that's the consequences of your actions. Now, I'm not saying everyone thinks that way. In fact, I think less than 1% of people that view that kind of content thinks that way. But developing a superiority complex or a God complex or feeding a God complex by watching something like this is something that definitely cannot be dismissed. I definitely believe that somebody or several people out there do watch it for that reason. So for me to dismiss this answer as something that is false would be ignorant of me. And like I said, I wanted to leave no stone unturned. So developing a God complex or feeding a God complex by watching this kind of video is definitely something that is in the question. A form of rebellion if the person was sheltered. So this feeds right into, we want what we can't have. It feeds right into the tabooness of it all, because without a doubt, watching shock content or consuming anything disturbing is taboo. No one really does it. But because people don't do it, that makes people want to do it. Does that make sense? It's sort of like the whole, hey, you can't have this. That just makes you want it more. You saying that did nothing except for amplify my feelings of want towards the thing you told me I can't have. So I wouldn't say that it's a form of rebellion, even though I know that I said that this is your answers, I'm going into it, but I wouldn't say that it's a form of rebellion. I would say that it's I want what I cannot have. And this is very easily reachable. We can find this right now. So just because you told me I can't do it makes me want to do it even more. Compare it to Hollywood. I would say that this happens not as often as many would like to think, but I would say that this happens quite a bit. Like, for example, you watch a movie like August Underground, like something like a snuff film that's supposed to be hyper realistic with the realistic gore and stuff like that. And then you watch the real thing, you're like, oh, that's not what happens at all. He just dropped like a sack of potatoes, but in the movie he did 17 twirls. Like, that's not what happens in the movies. And I guess it's more from an educational perspective that people watch these kinds of things. And it's not from a ignorant place that they're coming at this with. It's a more of like a, oh, that's what actually happens when someone gets shot in the head. Studying a reaction to pain. So this one, I don't think a lot of people do, but I don't doubt that some people do it. Like if someone had their arm chopped off, how does a person react? And I can guarantee you that there are some people out there that have that question, and they go online and look for a video of someone getting their arm chopped off and they watch their reaction. I'm sure this is a much more rare case. Not everyone does it. In fact, I think why a lot of people do it is because it reminds them of their own morality and it shows how evil people can be. But I wouldn't doubt that some people do it just to see the reaction of the person that's getting inflicted upon. I can't really dive into that one either, so we're just gonna move on from that one as well. People like endings, including life. So when I read that, initially I think of movies, and I know that we're talking about real things here, but just hear me out to the end. When you watch a movie and it's a fantastic movie and the ending is absolute fucking dog shit, how does that make you feel? Like dog shit. Life is the same thing, at least to me. You have all of these different experiences, you meet all of these different things, you laugh, you cry, you fall in love, you have your heart broken, all these kinds of things, and it leads up to death. And we don't know what it's like to die, but the closest we can come to it is watching someone else die. So having that kind of experience, knowing what it's like to die without experiencing it firsthand is also a reason why I think people would seek out this kind of content. So, I mean, people like endings which include life, I guess. But when people watch this, I don't think that's initially why they go like, I wonder how people die, and then they watch a video on it. I don't think that's the reason, but similar to it shows how evil people can be, it's kind of like a side effect. It's just something that comes with watching this kind of content. And the last one is the most obvious one, is bored. People get bored and they watch this kind of thing because they're bored. Now, when I get bored, I don't watch people getting mutilated. That's just me though. I can't say that it's bad or wrong because someone else does it. It's their way of dealing with their boredom, but I can't answer this from a first person perspective. I've never done it because I'm bored. I dive down rabbit holes when I'm bored. That is why I started this channel, because I love rabbit holes. But I can see that other people do watch this kind of content because they do get bored. I guess, yeah. But I personally can't put myself in those kinds of shoes. So that will do it for your answers. Damn it. For the last part of this video, I'm going to read out the answers to some questions that I had for the creator and founder of r/EveryoneIsGoingToDie, one of the biggest subreddits that deals with shocking and disturbing content in the world. So I asked him 4 different questions. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to read my question, and then I'm going to read his answer, and we are going to keep moving on that way. So the first question I asked him is, because you run one of the biggest shock content subreddits, do you feel like there's a connection between age and the action of seeking out the videos? For example, a younger version will request much more edgy content compared to their older counterparts. If so, why do you think that is? He responded with, in regards to the age of my viewers, the only analytics I can find on that are on my Instagrams that get roughly 50% from being ages 18 to 24 and 25 to 34 as roughly 25%. Only 15% are 13 through 17 years old. Furthermore, just knowing Reddit is a slightly older demographic in and of itself compared to other social medias and the types of comments most people leave, it doesn't really seem like it's something that's big with the youth. Personally, I only watched like fight and cop body cam footage as a kid. It wasn't until I got older that I got into different types of videos. I'd imagine that the 18 to 25 age demographic is the most popular age range because it's when a lot of men have tons of unspent energy or unresolved emotions with the maturity to solve them. Some are in the angst, anti-authority, edgy stage. Also, I don't know how to explain the nuance behind why. I'm sure there's a similar reason why action movies are most popular with 15 to 24-year-olds. Breaking this down even further, just this first question, it's when a lot of men have tons of unspent energy or unresolved emotions without the maturity to resolve them. He's talking about the ages 18 to 25. You have all of this emotion, all of this different types of feelings, all of these different factors coming into play at this stage of your life because you are now an adult. You left your parents' house and you are living out there on your own. You're getting an impression of the world you didn't have before. So now you're in this stage of, oh, I heard about this happening. Let's look at this kind of thing. Oh, I heard about this happening. Let's look at this thing right here. Let's look at this cop shooting body cam footage. Let's look at this guy getting decapitated because I heard about it. My friends are talking about it. And I feel like I can take on the world. So why can't I just conquer this one video? This is a very interesting answer in and of itself. I love this answer. So let's move on to the second question that I asked him. Do you feel like shock content has a benefit? Short and sweet. His answer is, yeah, I feel like it has some benefits. Albeit not perfect, just like some of the other stress relievers, I'm sure some people would debate it, but I believe it's a relatively harmless way of relieving stress, source of entertainment, and is just like a big adrenaline boost. It's also reality, so I think it's a good thing for people to see what life is really like. I'm not a big fan of the idea that we have to keep people in these protected, oblivious, and clueless little bubbles as if shock content is any more bad for people than soda, weed, strip clubs. Humans spent thousands of years evolving as we saw some violence all around us. This idea that people getting traumatized by these videos, I just don't think is real. If they do, they were bound to get traumatized by a normal life occurrence inevitably. I'd imagine it also puts healthy fear into people that there are very real consequences when you do something wrong. It's only the worst of the worst shock content that's any problem in my opinion. He also goes on to say, as for my benefits, personally, I grew up with a messed up childhood. Drug addict mom, foster care, starved, homeless, daily house fights, etc., etc. When I was constantly that stressed out, I was also constantly living with this adrenalized state of mind. 15 plus years of living in that adrenalized state of mind, and now it's something my body craves even though my life is better, mellow, and calm. The mind gets hooked on habits, rituals, repetition, etc. And since my body spent so long being wired that way, it's not something I can just eliminate from my life and feeling. However, the videos I post and watch fill that void and makes me feel alive in a way. I know this doesn't make sense, but it's really relaxing and exciting at the same time. I grew up with bad anxiety, so I'd imagine that these videos are one of the things that helped me get over that anxiety I had in life. Part of it is realizing it gets so much worse than anything I've ever been through, and it's humbling. Like we discussed before, a lot of people find comfort in this video. A lot of people find comfort in watching these kinds of videos because, like he said in his personal experience, he grew up in a childhood that was rough. He had a very, very rough childhood. He had constant adrenaline. He had constant fights. And now his life is normal. It's comfortable now. But his body was hardwired to be in a constant fight or flight all the time. And videos like this help him calm down. It helps him put him back into that state of mind that he's so comfortable in. It's a comfort for some people like this man right here. I love his answers so far. I love everything that he's saying. I totally agree with everything that he's saying. Let's move on to question number 3. Do you believe that being able to access content like this is important so that people know what's out there and make them aware of the type of violence in the world? His answer is, I think dang near most forms of modern censorship, and this idea that websites need to parent grown adults is insane to me. Boom. Fuck yeah, I love that. Surely the most disgusting content at the highest levels of heinousness should be filtered, deleted, etc. But that bar has been set way too low by most social medias, websites, etc. Censorship is always used as a weapon eventually. The benefits have to be clear and far outweigh the negatives, and I don't think that's the case with 80 to 90% of shock content. Personally, I prefer the phrase tragedy content because I don't really like the connotations behind shock content, as if it's only for the sake of being edgy or something. Like he says, there's a difference between shock content and tragedy content. For example, for me, when he says tragedy content, I think of like work-related incidents or car accidents or suicides, stuff like that. That's tragedy content because it's tragic that someone died, but it's not malicious or sinister in any way. Shock content goes into the ISIS, goes into the cartel videos and stuff like that. So him saying there is an unnecessary amount of censorship on shock content, I completely agree with that. So far, everything he said has been true. There are some things that, you know, I personally didn't agree with, but whenever he put some context behind it, I'm like, okay, I see it now. So everything he's saying so far is amazing. Let's move right on to the last question that I had for him, which is, why do you think we as humans are so drawn to death and or suffering in video format? This was the question that I asked the shock content people that they didn't answer, but he answered it in 5 different bullet points. So let's go on and read it. I'll just ramble some random reasons below. A, thousands of years of society and culture and everyday life being surrounded by violence. Predators, rival neighbors, tribes, primitive living, religious stories, hunting for food, survival of the fittest, recreational violence, etc. B, it's like an action or horror movie. It's exciting visually, and there's a layer of backstory that's known that's visually interesting. Then there are unknown parts of how crazy things happen, which causes the mind to wander, putting yourself in their shoes, sparking the imagination. So similar to how we talked about third world countries having to live through this every single day, and a first world country being not living through it at all. He's basically reiterating that fact. Like, some people, they want to watch it and kind of imagine themselves in that scenario. C, or 3, however I started these bullet points out. The third one. It's easy to understand. Literally damn near everything else in life, sports, news, comedy, hobby, etc., contains layers of knowledge needed to enjoy and understand those things at a higher level, thus creating somewhat of a barrier to entry, whereas the tragic content, you don't need to understand anything. It's simple human nature at its most climactic levels that anyone can grasp. The dumbest people alive can understand it fully. You don't need the backstory as to why this person is dying. I mean, it's good to have, but you don't need backstory in order to know that this person's going to die. You don't need backstory to see how he dies. The most climactic thing in the film, you don't need any backstory. You are there to watch it. That's a really, really good fucking answer. Racists and people who got a kick out of putting people down probably feel justified and self-righteous when watching. Shit. Sorry. I dropped my fact book. That was a raccoon eggs joke there. But yeah, 100%. Some people are like, yeah, see, they're doing it. That's fine. I can do it too because we're the same and we don't like those people. Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I totally understand where he's coming from. I completely understand. I don't think I need to go into it any further, so I'm not going to. But I understand that completely. That's a really good answer. I love that. People's mental health is worsening and misery loves company. So when people feel bad, they may be more inclined to watch a tragedy happen to someone else. I don't need to explain that one anymore. That was perfectly worded. That was perfectly put. That was amazing. And that concludes his email. And thus, that concludes the video. What do you think drives Morbid Curiosity? Leave it in the comments below. I'm very intensely researching this and I will continue to research it even though I did a video on it because like I said, this is a question I've had in my head for years and I always enjoy reading other people's input onto the things that I cover and maybe you have an answer that wasn't covered in this video. I would love to know. Comment down below. Thank you to everyone who made this video possible, to the 500 plus people that went out of their way, took time out of their day to respond to my videos and lives. Thank you so much to the individual that runs Everyone is Going to Hell. Your answers were amazing. They were well put. And I thank you for your contribution to the video. And finally, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something today. And I hope I satisfied your curiosity for the morbidly curious. I don't know if that made sense, but it does to me, so that's all that matters. I have to go play Baldur's Gate 3 now for an unfathomable amount of time, and then I gotta go play D&D. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all the love and support you guys are giving me. I appreciate all the love and support here on YouTube and also on TikTok. I plan to be uploading a lot more. In a couple months, I'm actually moving. If you didn't know, I live in Japan and I'm moving all the way to Seattle, Washington. How fun. Oh my God, I can't wait. I'm so excited to be leaving one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. Thank you. What would you guys like to see me cover next? Put it in the comment section below and I'll make sure to read them all and maybe, just maybe, your idea will make it into a video. Thank you guys so much. Love all of you. Bye.